My pregnant wife excluded me and favored my daughter from a previous marriage. I finally lost my temper and said terrible things. It turned out she was afraid of being compared to my ex. So, I'm a 30-year-old guy and my wife is 26. We've been together for 4 years now. I have a 5-year-old daughter, Leah, from a previous relationship I had back in college. Long story short, Leah's mom and I broke up soon after she was born because she cheated and wasn't ready to settle down. Leah doesn't really see her biological mom much, and my ex mostly just pops up to cause drama now and then. My wife has basically taken on the mother role for Leah, and they're super close. Now, my wife is almost 8 months pregnant, and things have been weird. She's kind of shut me out of the whole pregnancy, but won't admit anything's wrong. I feel pretty ignored and hurt by it. When we found out she was pregnant, she just casually told me while I was making breakfast. I was thrilled, asked her how she felt, and she started crying and smiling, saying she was excited. I scooped her up, kissed her a ton, and told her how happy I was too. All good, right? She went all out with the announcements to everyone else. Balloons, boxes, t-shirts, even mugs that said "Best Big Sister" for Leah. I figured she kept it low-key with me to get my thoughts on it first. But when her sister asked how I liked my announcement box, my wife quickly said, "Oh, he didn't get one. This isn't his first rodeo." Ouch. Getting her to let me come to ultrasound appointments was like pulling teeth. She kept making excuses, like not wanting me to miss work or mess up Leah's routine. During the heartbeat check, the tech commented on how beautiful it was, and my wife snapped, "This isn't his first child, it's not that special for him." I was floored and said, "This is one of the most important moments of my life. I can't think of anything more special." Things got pretty awkward after that. Another time, I heard Leah and my wife's mom laughing in the living room. Leah was touching my wife's belly, feeling the baby move. My wife let them feel the baby before me. I was hurt, but tried to play it cool, saying how happy I was. Later that night, I asked to feel the baby kick, and my wife was like, "You felt Leah move. What can be better than that? She was the cutest baby ever." She's been feeling really crappy throughout the pregnancy, but won't let me help. If I bring her snacks or drinks, she gives them to Leah. If I try to rub her feet or legs, she tells me to play with Leah so Leah doesn't feel left out. It's like, I get it. I love spending time with Leah, but I want to be there for my wife too. We even went to the zoo, and my wife started feeling sick. I offered to call an ambulance or drive her to the hospital, but she didn't want to ruin Leah's trip. Eventually, her dad showed up out of nowhere and took her to the doctor. I was shocked and followed them with Leah. My wife was mad that Leah missed out because of it. Another time at Leah's sports game, I casually asked my wife if she thought our kid would be into sports, arts, or science. She snapped, saying, "This is Leah's moment. Don't make it about someone who isn't here." It felt like any time I tried to talk about our baby, she shut me down. When her baby bump started really showing, she proudly showed it off to everyone except me. Friends, family, everyone got to admire it. But if we were out together, she'd wear the loosest clothes so I couldn't see it. The other day, she was playful and sat on me, her bump right in my face. I ran my hand up it and told her she was the most beautiful woman I've ever seen and how excited I was for our baby. She moved away, started crying, and said, "I know your ex had a bigger bump than me. You don't have to act like you care. I know you've done this before." I tried to explain that Leah is special, and this baby is too, in a completely new way. But she just walked out of the room crying. I'm absolutely sure she's not cheating, nor has she ever. It's just really confusing and painful, and I'm not sure what to do. I'm seriously at a loss trying to understand why she doesn't want me to be happy about this baby. Most of the time, everything between us is perfectly fine. As long as I don't bring up the baby, she's affectionate, initiates intimacy, brags about what a great husband I am, and how wonderful I've made this pregnancy. We plan our future, have date nights, it's all good. But then we had this huge fight, and I lost it. So I had some free time between clients at work and thought I'd surprise her by stopping by a local baby store. I picked up a bunch of stuff she had pinned on her Pinterest board for the nursery, brought home flowers, a prenatal massage certificate, her favorite food, and all the baby items. She seemed really grateful at first. But when I got back home after going to work again, the baby items were gone. She said she returned them to buy Leah stuff so she wouldn't feel left out. I completely lost it. I cried for the first time in our marriage and yelled that having a child with her was the worst mistake I've ever made. I mean, my deadbeat ex at least let me bond with my unborn child. I told her I didn't care about the baby because she wouldn't let me bond with it. Of course, I do care, but it all came out wrong. She told me she hoped I was as miserable as she was making me, and that she'd fight tooth and nail for custody. I begged her to let me interact with our baby. I even asked if her therapist had any insight into why she was acting this way, but she said no. I accused her of the baby not being mine, even though I know it is. She threw her phone at me and said she'd do a paternity test or whatever I needed. I called her parents to come over because we were having a disagreement, and I went to a hotel to avoid stressing her or our unborn child. Now, I'm staying at an Airbnb, trying to figure this out. I miss her so much and just can't understand why she's acting this way. I've apologized for what I said, but I can't take it back. I'm scared about what'll happen when the baby is born. Will she still want to be a family with me, or even let me be involved with the baby? Talked to a mutual friend who said she's really distraught and doesn't want to be a single mom, but her actions keep sending mixed signals. I said those hurtful things because I was hurt and wanted her to feel the same pain. It was immature, and I regret it. She's cried and asked if I'm unhappy in our marriage when I suggested counseling. I told her I just want to be more involved in the pregnancy, but it led to more tears and confusion. I even asked if she wanted a divorce, which seemed to genuinely hurt her. I don't think she resents my 5-year-old Leah. Honestly, she adores her. She's always taking her to the park, museums, mommy and me painting classes, school events. She's super involved and never misses a beat. She even freaked out on her cousin for suggesting that Leah is a stepdaughter. When my wife first got pregnant, we took a short trip to see her family, and she cried every day about missing Leah. She's been in therapy for anxiety and depression since we met, but it doesn't seem to be helping. I've mentioned prenatal depression to her doctor, but she doesn't seem to fit the profile unless we specifically discuss the baby. I'm worried I won't be allowed at the birth, and that she's mentioned wanting her mom in the delivery room instead of me. People have told me we need couples therapy immediately, and I should call her OB to explain what's going on. I regret not doing something sooner. I thought it was just pregnancy hormones, but it's clear now that it's deeper than that. Dude, what made you say all that? Yeah, she was really acting weird, but you majorly messed up. That was some harsh and possibly unforgivable stuff you said. You seemed like a decent guy, but wow, you really blew it. Honestly, I'm kicking myself for what I said, and I've apologized, though I doubt it means much to her now. I was just spitting out whatever would hurt her the most because I'd been bottling up resentment for months. I'd been begging her to open up to me, to involve me in things like picking out baby names. I was, and still am, really hurt. I want to fix this because I want to be there for her and be a full-time dad to our kid. The idea of shared custody breaks my heart. Oh, and here's an update. It's been about a month since I posted. I've got a lot to say because so many awesome people on Reddit reached out with advice and shared their experiences, asking for an update. After stewing for a bit and having a couple of drinks, I called my father-in-law. He and my wife are super close, and I really respect his opinion. He's been married forever and has a happy family life. I didn't spill all the details about our issues, but he knew we were having problems since I was crashing at an Airbnb. He's got this old-school vibe and asked me what I had to lose by pushing her to talk. I told him I was scared of pushing her further away, but he pointed out that I was already living separately from my pregnant wife and freaking out about a divorce. What did I have to lose, right? He told me to man up, go back home, and lay it all out. So, I agreed. My in-laws offered to take Leah to buy sparklers for the upcoming holiday and keep her overnight. Perfect timing. The next day, I showed up at home with flowers and stuff to make dinner. My wife asked what I was doing there, and I told her, I live here and we need to talk. I apologized big time for my actions and words. When I was done, I told her it was her turn to spill what was going on. At first, she tried to brush it off, saying everything was fine. I called her out, saying my heart was breaking, and reminding her of all the tough times we'd been through together. We sat there in silence for a bit, until she finally broke down and cried. She admitted she thought our relationship would end if she was honest. She confessed that it was hard knowing this would be her first kid, but not mine. During her pregnancy, she started lying in bed, wondering if my ex still wanted to raise Leah with me. She felt like she was just a stand-in when my original plan didn't pan out, and that killed her confidence. She'd even told a close friend how excited she was to have a baby with me, her soulmate, and her friend had cruelly replied that soulmates shouldn't have kids with other people. That hit her hard. She stumbled upon some old social media pics of my ex while pregnant and couldn't stop comparing herself. She was scared our baby wouldn't measure up to Leah in my eyes, and that terrified her. She even wished I'd never had Leah, so she wouldn't have to feel so insecure. That's when she knew she had to try extra hard to bond with Leah and maintain a relationship. She worried I wouldn't have enough time for our baby because of work and Leah, and that the baby would feel like an afterthought. She showed me a bunch of articles saying dads often don't bond with their kids until they're older. Plus, she'd seen videos claiming parents care less with each additional kid. She feared our baby wouldn't be as interesting to me as Leah, who could already do fun stuff. She constantly worried that her pregnancy and our baby would be more of a burden to me because there wouldn't be the same newness. At one point, she cried on the way to the hospital, thinking Leah would hate her for cutting zoo time short. She thought I'd resent having to spend my time off at the hospital instead of with Leah. Usually, Leah and my wife spend lots of time together at the library, parks, and biking. They have a great time, and we often bike together on weekends too. We've got loads of local spots we love. So, yeah, it's complicated and messy, but I'm hoping we can work through it and figure things out. Since my wife's been pregnant, we haven't been able to hit the trails like we used to. We've switched to more indoor stuff. While I'm at work, our daughter Leah has been telling my wife she hates her because she doesn't get to ride her new bike as much. I thought that was totally unacceptable and wanted to talk to Leah about it, but my wife asked me not to. She said Leah already has a lot of changes coming up, and my wife missed biking together too. A couple of months ago, my wife suggested we read stories together. Leah picked the first book, and I read it. Then my wife chose her favorite childhood story, a book for me to read to the baby and Leah, to help with bonding and brain activity. After that, I read another book Leah picked. The next day, while I was at work, Leah ripped out the pages of the book my wife had chosen. Leah said she was going to tell me, but her friend, the same one who says my wife and I aren't soulmates, convinced her I wouldn't believe her. My wife said she didn't feel comfortable telling me because her feelings didn't even make sense to her. She wanted me to spend time with Leah, so Leah wouldn't feel left out, but then felt upset when I wasn't spending more time with her. She loves Leah, but wishes we had our first kid together. She was afraid I'd think she was trying to come between Leah and me, which she wasn't. When I finally realized something was really wrong, I asked if she needed therapy or anything. She admitted she had been acting poorly, but didn't want to face that she pushed me away and made her fears reality. She said her first pregnancy was a bit rough because of her actions. I felt terrible for making her feel she couldn't come to me. She had read online forums where people talked negatively about stepchildren and feared I'd feel the same. She said she would be upset and angry if I felt about Leah the way she did, so she couldn't understand how I wouldn't be. We both cried a lot. I reassured her, told her how much I loved her, and that she was my soulmate. The universe brought us together for a reason. She apologized for treating me poorly and wanting to make things right. She wanted to apologize earlier, but was afraid I might think she had messed up beyond repair. That evening turned out great. We cried, I made dinner, and we laughed about how stressed I was that I went to Reddit for advice. She read the post and cried again, but felt a bit better seeing others in similar situations. Things were awkward for a bit, but they started turning around when she woke me up one Saturday, whispering, "The baby wants blueberry pancakes." I've never made pancakes so fast. We went to a pool party, and she let me choose her swimsuit. A big deal since she usually wears baggy clothes around me. We took family photos, and on the way home, she asked me to feel her belly. The baby was hiccuping, and it was a special moment for us to share. She's even let me help her when she's sick without making excuses about Leah. Now, when she puts her back to me and lifts her arm, I know it's my cue to lift her belly. I spend a lot of time rubbing and talking to her belly and massaging her sore spots. The first 500 times it made me cry. I've even come to enjoy the middle of the night food runs. Sure, it sucks that we missed out on a lot, and she feels the same. But we're working on things. I found some simple fixes, like getting a trailer for Leah's bike so we can all bike together. I've taken time off work to spend more time with them, and we're all in therapy. Leah's therapist says she's securely attached to both of us and coping well. Some of her behavior was due to a different situation, which we've resolved. She's excited to be a big sister now. My wife was worried Leah could sense her attitude shift, but the therapist said Leah's only complaint was that my wife forgot her candy once, and it took 32 minutes for the store to deliver it. My wife's in therapy working through her feelings, and we're getting really close to baby time. We're working hard on preparing, though my wife still needs some reassurance. That's pretty much where we are now. Sometimes my wife brings up my ex, and I've found that shifting the conversation to our firsts really helps. Like, she'll ask about certain stuff, and I'll just say I don't want to talk about that. Then I'll steer the chat to us, like, hey, remember our first house? Our first vacation? Our first kiss? Do you remember that time? Blah blah. It made me fall more in love with you? I might even bring up, remember when you and Leah made me that thing? That's still one of my prized possessions. It really upsets me that my wife went through such a tough time for so long. I think talking about it out loud took away a lot of the power those feelings had over her. Most people know how crappy it feels when you're having thoughts that don't even feel like your own during a rough mental period. I should have stepped up for our relationship and her mental health way sooner. I let her brush me off when I should have realized she needed help. I really appreciate everyone who reached out or offered advice. I posted this with my wife's permission, hoping it might help someone else going through the same thing. TLDR. My wife was dealing with insecurity and some mental health issues and felt like she couldn't talk to me because it involved my biological daughter. Thanks to some great advice from my father-in-law and all of you, we talked it out and worked through it. After some awkward times, things are getting back to normal. I'm able to be involved in my wife's pregnancy, and everyone, including Leah, is doing well and excited for the baby to arrive. Oh, by the way, someone commented asking how my wife is moving forward regarding her friend, who seemed to put these insecurities in her head. Well, we've disinvited this friend from our home. It's tough cutting her out since she's part of my wife's larger friend group. My wife was unsure about it because this friend has been going through some hard stuff lately, but recently, my wife hosted a girls' night. As I was leaving, I told her she looked beautiful and wished them a good time. When I got back, my wife told me this friend said in front of everyone that I might be saying nice things now, but after some changes post-birth, which I won't describe here, I'd be after her. My wife called her out, saying that was unkind and untrue, and the friend tried to pass it off as a joke. I made it super clear to my wife that I didn't want this person around, especially during such an emotionally vulnerable time. My wife agreed.